Thank you for joining us this morning on Let's Unpack That with ReiDefine Wellness. And we want to thank you so much for joining us in studio this morning. It is Sunday, the 10th of August, and we're still at Cary West. If you haven't yet come down to the Cary West booth, you should come down and check out ReiDefine Wellness. It's been a great weekend so far, and it has reminded us a lot about our culture or our heritage. And as you know, Edmonton is the home of festivals, and Cary West is one of the biggest there is, second only to something else in Toronto, right? And so we want to take the time today to thank the organizers for putting it on. Thank you, Cary West, for such a great festival. The people have been enjoying it. And definitely, as newbies here in Edmonton, I must say, too, that it is refreshing. It is great to see people coming from all walks of life to celebrate. And we want to say welcome this morning to Latoya, who is in the house with us, as you join us in Radio Land and on Facebook. Latoya.
Thank you. Well, you guys must have recognized that Alric must have partied too much over the weekend and leading into several festivities that we've attended. So his voice is a little hoarse, Alric. Your voice is hoarse over there. And so welcome to those who are joining us early morning. My eyes are still red from all the excitement from Cary West, and my body is still trying to regulate itself after all the activities of the week. So thank you so much for having us this morning and for joining us this morning. Yes, we're full of excitement. I wore my special shirt today because as we attended the various events that happen in Edmonton, we have to sound the alarm for them. You folks, commendations, I tell you. Look, we've lived in quite a few cities here, right, Alric?
Yes.
We've lived in quite a few cities here in Canada, but I must say that you're going to make me go broke with the number of festivals that you have. But I must commend the fact that nobody can feel left out. Nobody can feel left out. You know, and that is, as I attended, especially even the Heritage Festival, my kids asked me, they said, Mommy, what would a Canadian festival look like? I said, that was a heritage festival. Is the Canadian festival, because Canada is all of us.
Yes,
all
indeed.
of us are Canada. And so we're happy to be here this morning. This segment is taking a little interesting twist. It's just myself and Alric. No guests. Where are your guests for today?
Let me sound that one.
Where are your guests for today? And the reality is, you know, lots of folks want to know what's our journey here in settling in Edmonton. Who are we to be on air talking to you folks and doing what we do? So today you get to see a little bit or know a little bit about us. And Alric is going to be leading the seats today. And I'm going to be here to just occupy. Is that okay?
Well, occupy the seat you shall. I guess we will be playing hot seat today with this conversation. But yeah, sometimes we get the question, you know, we see you on the air on Sunday mornings. We watch the replays. We hear a bit about your story, but who exactly are you? What is it that has brought you to this point? Now you're settling in Edmonton. You've lived in Saskatchewan. You've lived in Ontario. You're from Jamaica, right? We just came back from Jamaica. They can't see it based on the way the camera. Yes. And so we just want to answer some of those questions. I want to just take the time before we dive into that to shout out a few people this morning. I want to shout out my mom, who called me this morning and she was like, what's the link? I need to get on. I'm like, Mom, we're 50 minutes out from the show.
Thank you, Miss Eva.
So I know that she may not comment and comment on the Facebook page, while she's listening, but she is following. So thank you so much. I know that Miss Jackie and my dad, Alan, they're also up sometimes in the mornings watching the show. I don't know if they're up this morning, but I also want to shout out to them. Also want to shout out my little brother, who's putting on his annual big soiree in our community in Bottom Pen. Big up, Aldine. I know that Push It to the Limit is on tonight. And so if anyone is in and around Montego Bay, head up to Bottom Pen tonight.
Oh, wow.
And it shall be a grand affair. Okay?
All right.
Anybody you want to shout out, Latoya?
You know what? I'm shouting out my kids. They're at home. They've been true champions. The past few weeks have been very busy, very heavy. And I've been having some mom guilt. So when we have next week or so, when we have, that show with Mesh of Mothers coming on, I'll be able to express this mom guilt. But I just want to say thank you to my kids who've been quite understanding in how mommy has to grind and daddy has to grind. And so we don't always get to spend the quality time with them. And so I have some sadness in my spirit about that. But I want to say thanks to my two troopers, Alxavier and Alzari, for that. But you know what? I also want to recognize the city of Edmonton for its efforts in ensuring that, folks like me and you can feel so welcomed by creating the ethos and the culture for folks to really be included and feel belonged. We as we said before, we've lived in quite a few different cities, but the culture that is being created by ensuring that everyone feels welcomed is something that I would love to commend. But more so, Greg, Mr. Big G on the radio. Oh my gosh. I had to say to him yesterday, hey, dude.
How do you do this?
How do you do it? How do you do it? He wears so many hats. He's so energetic. He leaps around in so many. Every space that I go to, I see Greg, and I see all that he's involved in. And I just want to say, yo, brother, I hope you get some rest.
Yes,
I hope
indeed,
you
indeed.
get some rest. So that's it for me, Alric. And thank you. Big up to you as well for, being a part of this journey and making it feel so real. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And so there are people who ask, these two people, Alric, Latoya, what's the journey? What's it looked like? What has brought you here to Edmonton? I'm sure that we've shared the story of how we've migrated to Canada, how you came here as an international student and fell in love with Canada. It's actually started in 2008. Right? 2007, right?
Yeah.
When Latoya came here as an international student, went to, of all places, and
no, I wasn't an international student.
No,
so I'll
an
share
exchange
that.
student.
Yes. So I was granted a scholarship.
Yes.
I was a teacher at the time, student teacher, emerging teacher, and I won a scholarship to come here October of 2027. And big up to Fort St. John in British Columbia. That is where we went to the Northern Lights College in partnership with Simon Fraser University. And myself and my crew from Sam Sharp Teachers College, we visited, we dominated, we made impact, and I was encouraged to come back. And lots of the relationships, my friend Lorena over there, who is in Presbyterian with her family. And so those relationships I've always been asked, you should come to Canada. We have so many opportunities for you, but guess who was stubborn? Guess who was stubborn? So that was 2007, folks. 2007. And then we were back and forth. We were doing well. We were okay. Had our teaching job and everything was fine. And then I was like, sometimes you would just want to change. And he was like, nah, we're doing okay. We don't need to go. So, Alric, what prompted you to change your mind after so long?
The short story I normally give people is that you put your foot down.
I did.
It's time for us to go. And I had one request, is that I choose where we go, right?
Ooh, yes.
And so But the story behind that is that a lot of things started unfolding in Jamaica. Well, as Latoya said, we're both educators. Latoya served in the elementary system for over 10 years. Myself, I'm a Spanish teacher by profession. I served as a Spanish teacher for over 4 years officially. Before that, I was teaching a long time. Before going to Teachers College, ran a community group in my home community called Bottom Pen from Chill City Youth Club. So big up the Chill City people. I know that they've renamed the club. So
Harmony. They're now called Harmony.
Okay. Yeah. And they're doing great things there in Bottom Pen. Yeah. So we coming out of our teaching sojourn, we're also entrepreneur minded.
He blames it on me. That's the long and short story. I'm a workaholic. I wasn't spending enough time with the kids. And so I thought, Canada is a family-oriented country. They are calling for professionals who are skilled and have all kinds of qualifications. And so I thought, why don't we do something different?
Yeah, and so she put her foot down. She's like, you know what? I want to go and study. I remember when I went back, when I went to Fort St. John, and I really enjoyed it. And she was very excited when she came back. She was like, I really would like to go back. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, okay, let's go.
Yes.
But I get to choose where we go. And I always tell people this joke. And I'll share it with you this morning. Because we knew nowhere in Canada, well, apart from Fort St. John where she went. And we started looking at the map, and we were like, where are we going to go? I knew I didn't want to go to Toronto because I don't really like the fast-paced life. And I was like, okay, let's figure out where to go. And we started looking at videos at different places. You were researching universities, right?
Yes,
you were researching universities.
Yeah.
And she gave me a list of universities that she wanted to go. And I was like, okay, let's see which of these universities just pops with me. And I remember as I was looking at the different cities, one of those cities just popped at me. And people always ask me why I went to this city. And I'm like, it kind of rhymes with fun. And that city's name is Regina.
And their team is called the Rough Riders.
The Saskatchewan Rough Riders. Now, if you're from Jamaica, you probably understand what that means. But yeah, that's why I chose that city.
Well, you also reveal something about yourself when you do that. But it's been quite a journey. It's ironic that I wanted to come because I wanted to spend more time with my kids, and I got to do that. But then business ownership in Canada, or business ownership overall, not just in Canada, has had me consider what kind of unrealistic goals I had, thinking that owning my own business would have had me trading and creating time for my children, because the reality is I traded a 9 to 5 for a 24-hour job. So we lived in Regina. So we, Alric, we moved here in April.
Mm-hmm. April of 2015.
Oh, Lord.
Feels like such a long time away, right?
So we moved here at that time, lived in Regina, attended school for me. Big up to the University of Regina, the Faculty of Social Work, the Graduate Student Pro Association, the U of R Student Council, because these organizations and were a big part of grooming me into fully embracing the person that I am, the person in being bold and audacious to say, you know what, rather than complain all the time that this needs to change, why don't I be a part of the solution? So, What else? What else do people want to know? I'm going to look at some stuff that I was taking up some stuff because people have been, who are you guys? Like, oh.
So isn't it interesting, though? You just mentioned the changing stuff because you've been inspired by the university. But that's kind of like who you've always been.
I
know. You've always been that person to kind of steer the pot, to push the status quo, to stand up for those who probably don't have a voice, right? It's not just started here.
I know that, but what happened is when I came to Canada, you have to like Regina. It was we didn't see many people that looked like us there.
Yeah.
So I think I became very timid about how I would approach things, and I thought my voice wasn't necessary, right? And so I always slid to the back and didn't want to be too much of a troublemaker. When you come from your own country, you can make all the trouble that you want. You can do all you want because people are accustomed to you already, but you are in a new country. And so I was observing and I was wondering, where does my passion, drive fit in with the context? And I chose to move from teaching into social work because of the empowerment that it provided. And the more I did courses and the more I learned about the anti-oppressive pieces, and then the more I learned, I did courses in, understanding the culture and the context of Canada, the experiences with missing murdered women, doing a lot of indigenous classes, doing a lot of anti-oppressive classes. I recognized that this was the perfect landscape for me to open my big mouth, And so that I did. But, words without actions is nothing. So I was a part of the Graduate Student Association, but also helped to form and maintain the, what's it called, Student Parent Association. I hope it's still active over there. But I was well received by the Faculty of Social Work. I was, it gained me so much value in that my voice was heard. I remember when I was on a decanal committee, the dean, the provost, he said to me, we need you in our interviews because the questions that you ask and the critical responses that you give are so profound. I was like, me? Like little me? And so those experiences do embolden me to feel like, okay, I am needed and embraced and may not always be welcomed, but there is a place for me to be authentically myself in Canada.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And you have been doing that. So thank you so much for creating that space for others to understand that they can rise.
I think
so you mentioned some questions.
People want to get in our business.
Yes. So what's the question?
People want to get in our business.
Yes.
Like, how did we meet? Look, if you see anything on the Facebook page, because I have, these are questions that people, how did we meet? How long we've been together? I always tell people that, we've been married for 21 years. And they're like, what? Yes, we've been married for 21 years. Next year is 22, next January. And we've been together for like 24 years. 24 years.
Well, 24.
Yeah, 24 years.
Ooh, time's flying.
Yes, right? Time is flying. Yeah, I have the glow, I tell you. I have the glow. Yeah, but Alric, I think you can tell folks how we met.
Yeah, to be honest, it was, well, what people would call a chance experience, right? I remember I used to frequent this internet cafe called CompuCabana back in the day. And if you're anywhere hearing me, so I had a friend in the community called Prince. He's an artist. He's both a lyrical artist and he's also a graphic artist. He's very good artistically. And I remember he used to encourage me to come down by this computer cafe.
Yeah.
Right? And in those days, computers were like just coming out, just being the big thing. It was just after we had the Y2K bug, where we're just coming out of that, 2 years out of that. And he was like, you know what, come down. We have all these computers. And I remember going down to the computer lab. And of course, I spoke Spanish. And I used to be practicing Spanish online through Yahoo chats and so on. And I remember people in the computer lab would hear me talking Spanish over the phone. And it would be like, they would be in awe of that. But I would go there nearly every single day because I had this pen friend in Pennsylvania at the time. She was from Venezuela. And I would talk to her. I would talk to other people. And I remember I used to have this, I guess I had a lot of people who would always want to talk to me because I had this username called Kitty Ranks, which is what my friends and associates and communities would call me, right? Greg would know that everyone has nicknames, right? And so Kitty Ranks was one of my nicknames.
Yeah.
And so I use that as a handle. They call it a handle these days. In those days, we called it just usernames, right? And so because of that, a lot of people thought I was a woman. And so a lot of people would jump on and want to talk to me. But anyways, this one person, we kind of formed a bond and we would talk every day. And I remember one day I was there and Latoya walked in with her sister. But her sister...
I was there. You didn't realize that I was there before.
Oh, see, I didn't even realize.
You didn't realize.
But I knew her sister.
I was there before.
Yeah.
I was there. I was a high schooler at the time. I was doing my Spanish project. So I was doing the project already, but my sister called and was meeting up with me. So I went downstairs to meet her and then brought her upstairs. So when she came upstairs, she recognized you. She recognized you. And then she told me that, hey, he can help you learn Spanish. He can help you with your Spanish project because he is very good at Spanish. And I'm like, what? And so that was what happened, where our first meeting, which was very ironic because I knew everybody in Alric's family.
And
like
I knew
most
everybody
people
in
Alric's family. He knew most people in mine.
We were
we were not familiar with each other.
We're almost from, we're from the same community.
We're from the same community.
Yeah.
I live in the bridging,
right in the
border to get to the other community, and he lived in the heart of the community.
Yeah.
So,
and it's ironic that we never met before, eh?
Right?
Yeah.
I think we met. We just didn't realize.
Well,
Probably you weren't
maybe.
attractive to me then.
Well, yeah, so that's how we met. And yeah, from there, I helped you to ace Spanish. Yeah. I remember when she went to community college, because she's also a former future lawyer,
aspiring lawyer,
and that still burns bright in her in terms of her advocacy, right? And so when she went to community college, I remember her. Well, not before she went to community college. I remember when she was doing her exit exam, CXC, and she told me that she told her teacher that, listen, by the end of this year, I'm going to be the best student in the class. You won't be able to recognize me in terms of Spanish. And by the end of the year, she topped the class, and she was like,
oh,
whoa.
yeah. Yo, I got an A in Spanish. I got the highest distinction in Spanish because of this dude over here. Let me tell you, his mom, Miss Eva, you're online, so you should be listening. She used to get so upset when we would talk Spanish, so she would be like, speak so we can understand. You guys talking about me or whatever the case is. So people would, not fully embrace the fact that we would communicate in Spanish. But because he was such a disciplined individual, and that is something that I really admired about him, because if he says this should be done, this is what is going to happen. So, I was diligent in speaking the language. And it so happened that the next time that I did my exams, I was soaring to higher heights and chose Spanish in A-levels. Can you believe it?
Yes,
Me.
yes.
Yes. So we're heading up on a break already.
Wow, time is flying.
Yeah, time is flying. So we have about a few seconds.
Yes, welcome back. Welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us. Yeah, and so people always ask how we met, and that's the story of how we met, Latoya.
Yeah.
And so that was, what?
2001?
Yeah,
2001.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was what? The Easter of 2021. I
Yes.
was on Easter break.
Yeah.
But the journey has been quite a remarkable journey in so many ways. But, one of the questions that has asked is, what stands out in my mind as something that I'm most grateful for. And after I could no longer pursue going into law school because of all kinds of other factors, not because of failing out or anything, but other personal factors. I remember taking some time off to go and work. And Alric said to me, have you ever thought of being a teacher? I think I was...
Actually, it wasn't me. You were at church.
Oh,
Your church volunteering.
yes. I volunteered in the community. So I used to teach English, reading and literacy and spelling to kids. And one of the churches that I volunteered at, the lady said to me, "Have you ever thought of being a teacher?" And I said, "No, hell no." And
what's that for me?
She said, "Yeah, you should think about going into teaching." And I asked Alric about that. And he said, "Yeah, I think that would be a great idea." And so, one of the things that I'm most grateful for is at the time I was going to do teaching part-time. I don't know, folks here in Canada may not understand. But in Jamaica, when you go to teacher's college or you do teacher training, at that time it was full-time.
Full
you go to
day.
School 8 in the morning until 5 in the evening. Or you can do evening college, which would have been longer. Now, if anybody knows me and my ADHD, just the time, just thinking, and just young people, you think that the world is going to end for you. So I went to Alric and I said, I would prefer to go full time. At that time, we were two young people starting in life. And he said to me, "You know what? Take the time off. Go do school full time. I will work and send you." Whoa. Which guy is going to make that sacrifice? So he did that, and I'm most grateful for that opportunity. And I never let you down, did I?
No, not at all.
I never let you down.
Topping the honors list every year.
Yeah.
Bringing home prizes every year.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Being school president.
Yeah. But you talk about me. See, if you think he's a demigod at Sam Sharp Teachers College, big up to the Sam Sharp Teachers College posse. Because after I went, what did you do?
Well, I went after you. We reversed the switch, right? We flipped the switch.
Yes.
There's a song like if my daughter was here, she would say, "I flipped the switch." That is that how the song is? So we flipped the switch. She completed her. You completed your teaching accreditation, and then I went right afterwards. So she was exiting as I was entering, and I remember when I stepped onto the ground, because you see, this is one of the things that you probably don't realize, Latoya, is that when I went to Sam Sharp, everyone already knew me because I was there with you most of the time,
it's true,
right?
It's true.
So I practically did 6 years at Sam Sharp Teachers College.
It's true.
And so by the time I stepped onto the grounds, like most people knew me, but you had left such a reputation too that for me it was so scary because you had blazed such a trail, and everyone was like, "Okay, we have another one now. What are we going to do?" And so I remember at the time, Barack Obama had just won the elections, and when I was walking, I remember someone who knew you, and then she was like, "Oh, so this is the new Obama in the school." And wherever she sees me, she still calls me Obama. Right? And so that was kind of like the legacy that you left. But yeah, I also did my own thing, right? Studied
big things.
Yeah.
He's being modest. Big things.
Also did my things at Sam Sharp Teachers College. Big up to the academic staff, the faculty, the administrative staff of Sam Sharp Teachers College.
Miss Rowe, Miss Crooks,
everybody. Yes. Matron, Doctors Pinnock, Dr. Walden. We want to say thank you to everyone that has helped to get us to where we are, right? That have contributed. Miss Simpson, so many names that pardon us if we don't call them all on air this morning, but you know that you have touched us in a very great way. So afterwards, I completed my own training, and Latoya is being pretty coy because just as I created that space for her to be able to do full-time studies, she did the same for me. And so I want to thank you for holding that space for me to be able to complete my studies and emerge, as an accredited teacher. So
I think I was looking down. I think people would be curious to figure out, how did we move from teaching to mental health? Like, what kind of ludicrous thing is that? Like, why? How did we get here? Because lots of people don't know, while I studied social work here and I matriculated all the way up to the master's level, Alric transitioned to banking. And so I'm curious. I know that, Alric, now you're doing psychology. You did your life coaching certifications, your life coaching. But can you talk to folks about how we got to this point?
Yeah, definitely. So, as I said, I was a banker for 8 years. That was actually my first job in Canada. So, worked with the bank for a while, and we had settled into life in Regina, right? And as life would have it, things happen. Lives, right? And our kids. I remember when COVID hit, and our son had to come home from school. Well, just before COVID hit, we got a call, and I think we've spoken about this on this show before, regarding our son and the way that the school system in Saskatchewan tried to
one specific school
tried to demonize him, and he was a victim of chronic bullying, right? That we found to be very disrupting. It has disrupted our lives. I don't know. There's no other way to put it except the fact that, listen, when your kids are attacked, then
you get activated.
Yes. And so I remember during the time Latoya visited a mental health professional, and I remember she came back and she was like, that doesn't represent, or that doesn't feel right. Something just does not feel right about that. And
I went back 3 more times. I tried it.
Yeah, right. And I remember too at the time, like for myself, it felt strange because in Jamaica, mental health is not discussed that much. I know that the Ministry of Health is trying to make it mainstream right now, but in Jamaica, if you mention mental health, a lot of people think mad people, right?
Crazy.
People think mad people, insanity, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not a thing. And so
it wasn't. It is now.
Yeah,
it's getting promotion now.
It's gaining traction, right?
Yeah.
And so I remember Latoya coming back and saying, "Hey, this just doesn't matter." And you tried to find
a
black therapist, right?
No, I think what happens, my journey, I was asking you about your journey, Alric, and you're talking about mine. So I'll give you an opportunity.
Intertwined.
It's intertwined, but for me, my journey into mental health, I served as an addiction counselor. I worked with First Nation Métis Services. I worked in medical social work. I did all kinds of roles with the Saskatchewan Health Authority, was in community assessor coordinator. But one of the main roles for me was being the graduate student president. And graduate students at the time were experiencing profound mental health challenges. And I remember folks used to come and talk to me. And so it was a lot of hearing and being the sounding board for individuals that were going through heavy stuff. But also I think one of our grad students had hot chocolate or hot coffee thrown on him at a particular food store. And so this had brought to the attention of the university some of the challenges that were happening in society. But what was the added layer to that was that there weren't many individuals that could understand, had the cultural competency to understand what they were going through. And so there was a lot of blaming, there were lots of fixing this and fixing that. But also I was a research, because I'm a researcher as well, so I was a part of a research into racialized students' experiences at the university who were in human service field. And a lot of those experiences were so heart-wrenching. And so I said, we got to do something. We have to find support for those individuals who need somebody to talk to because they're not getting help. There was such a stigma and a stereotype surrounding mental health that they weren't getting help. And so we garnered a team, thanks to like Black in SAS team. At the time, I don't know,
those
it was
young
Black
kids,
in SAS,
right? Yeah.
but some young kids there.
Yeah.
And they came with my former prof, Amanda Gebhardt, God bless her heart. And she came to meet with the university and the provost and the dean to try to bring attention to what was needed as gaps in services. And I think at the time as well, different political individuals were starting to get traction as to the need. But, really it started based on the fact that I started volunteering to see individuals and to just to talk to individuals, because at the time, this was like 2019, there was not one Black mental health therapist in private practice in the whole province. And we did the search. We searched far and wide and couldn't find one. And so even when I went to get therapy, and I think when George Floyd happened, it became real for me. And I went to get therapy, and it didn't make the mark for me. So that was what prompted me thinking about, okay, I have to do something. I have to fill this gap. So it started as volunteer.
Yeah.
And then it grew into this beautiful, establishment called ReiDefine Wellness.
Yeah. And one of the things that I found happening too, like at my place of employment, which at the time was CIBC, was that there were a lot of people who were also coming to me seeking help. For some reason, and I guess that's a teacher in me. People always came to me for solution, for advice, coming to me with challenges that they may be having in their lives and so on, and just trying to unpack certain things, looking at different angles. And one of the things too I remember was that because at the time we were trying to apply for a permanent residence, and the bank had changed their policies in terms of the application process, providing support for that. And there was a group of us that were doing the process, and it was really stressing out a lot of people because their time was running out in terms of the bridging time that they had to do the application and complete their permanent residence applications. And that was one of the reasons that they chose to work with the bank, because at the beginning, the bank promised that they would be facilitating this, right? And it really was messing with a lot of people's mental health. And they came and they were like, okay, what are we going to do? Some people were about to crash out, and we'll come back to that right after this. And we're back. Right after the break. And so we're just going to jump right back into it. Yeah, and so because that was affecting not just my mental health, but a lot of my colleagues' mental health, we started advocacy around that, right? And we petitioned the institution, the bank, and long and short of it is they acknowledged that although the policies had changed, because we were there before and they had promised us, they would complete what they promised to us. And that was an alleviation. And that really was one of my first instances with a really stressful and oppressive type of rule, right? Which could affect mental health. But really on the deep end for me, especially as a man, was when my children, my family, you included, Latoya, were going through that period where we transitioned cities, 4 cities in the space of 4 years. We were moving across Canada from Saskatchewan to Ontario, and now we're here in Edmonton. And we had to be moving a lot. And I remember we went to Ontario, where we thought, guess what? It's multicultural, very diverse. It would be a lot better here. And something happened there to my daughter that really, it was kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back. And my mental health suffered. I had a breakdown. And I remember walking around the streets of Newmarket, looking at other people walking. And I was thinking, because I'm a high-functioning person, no one would be able to see on the outside what was going on inside. And I remember looking around and saying, how many other people are there that are feeling like me, are high functioning like me, but are here and no one knows. And that's one of the reasons that I decided, more voice needs to be given to male mental health challenges, because we're told to just suck it up, to just get on with it, to just do what needs to be done. And a lot of men, including me, understand that. But how do we destigmatize that? How do we bring men to the table to be able to talk about what's happening? How do we bring men to the table to be able to discuss these things? And sometimes it doesn't have to be a deep discussion as to, okay, this is everything. But just starting to normalize talking about that, hey, we have challenges, right? Because we're really not broken. We're just buried under a lot of systemic ills, programming, and so on.
But you know what? I remember that experience and how heavy that was for all of us, because it took you, 6 months to find a therapist?
Yeah.
A psychologist at the time.
Yeah.
It took you 6 months. And within the 6 months, I was running the private practice. I was doing mothering duties. I was doing all these things, and I had a husband in the house that I could not recognize. And so, people will tell you all the crap about not treating your own family members. But guess what? I had no option.
Yeah, you were my support during that time.
I had to be the therapist for him through and through, and provide that bridging support until he got there. And that, honestly, this is for another segment, but it affected our marriage. It affected our family dynamic. It affected so many different aspects of our life. And so, seeing those gaps and those areas of deficiency, and then understanding that there aren't many safe grounds for men. Also, remember, we did about 8 consults. We did about 8 consults with folks saying, oh, well, I don't treat people with anxiety. Oh, I don't treat people with this. And I'm like, so what do you treat as a mental health practitioner? Or people who will cancel at the last minute.
Yeah.
Or, inconsistent timelines. I think even the therapist, the psychologist that you got, you did so well with him. He dropped, he disappeared for a few months, right? And so there are problems with and gaps in the system, and we needed to ensure that we created a model where individuals can take their whole person to therapy. They can feel fully aligned and belonged in the space.
And so we have a question here. Thank you. Well, Greg's been in the chat. He says real men uplift their wife with no issues.
Yes.
Right. And so he's asking, how do you redefine? Well, let's also say real women uplift their partners as well, right, with no issues. So thank you to Latoya. And so he asked, how do you redefine what it means to suck it up? And I love that you asked that question, Greg, because we have been told to suck it up for a very, very, very long time, right? And so redefining that simply means creating the space for men to be able to talk. Now, creating that space, everybody talks about creating space. What does that mean? Creating space for somebody, right? If someone comes to you and doesn't feel as if their issue is going to be validated, how does that person actually talk to you, right? And so redefining what it means to suck it up is that a man does being crying, for example. We're told not to cry. Crying isn't weakness. Crying is just a sign that your emotional systems are working, right? Men are told that, you have to carry the weight all the time. Sometimes it's okay to put the backpack down, right?
Yeah. And as I think about sucking it up, I'm thinking about a vacuum. And I'm thinking about the Hoover Dams vacuums from way back when that had that big bag. It's not like those new vacuums that has just a small space because they're trying to make it more compact to save cost. But the Hoover Dam vacuum, the vacuums for the floor, they had some huge bags on the back. And so they could take up a whole lot. And if you think of a construction vacuum, it takes up a whole lot. So when you think about sucking it in,
And keeping all of that in.
But also, any individual that has been sucking it in for years and years and years, the moment they can say, I'm full, I have no capacity to keep sucking it in, that is when everybody should be responding to say, hey, I'll help you to take offload.
Yeah.
I'll go dump this, because the reality is, because of the stigma in the mental health society, and I say this to my clients all the time, it takes a lot for people who are prideful about how they are going to be viewed to ask for help, to not suck it in, because we are the masters of sucking it in.
Oh, yes.
So when you get to a point where you've sucked it in and you're at capacity and you're bursting at the seams,
how do you get there?
Everybody should now be responding to prevent a crisis. And what you find is society has been telling us all to suck it in. Ask the employers how many absences they're having on their how many of them are having people now on short-term disability and so forth, because we have a culture of telling people to suck it in. But why don't we attack the problem before it gets to the point of being full and threatening and disaster? So that is my take on sucking it in.
So Greg added something. He said, I found when going through my own struggles, most people don't actually care if as a man you're going through things, right? And I find that too, that when talking to other men, right? When talking to other men and clients that I serve, one of the things that they say is that, you know, not a lot of people understand what they're going through. Even when I speak about my own stories, they'd say, you're brave to be sharing your stories, right? Because it's not something that's normal. It's not something that's celebrated for a man to speak about what he's going through. And so I like the analogy that you use regarding the vacuum. I always use the backpack issue, the backpack analogy. And that's, you know, every day you go out and something else is added to that backpack. Something else is added and it gets heavy over time. And you carry it and you carry it and you carry it until one day it gets too heavy and it starts breaking your back. And that's the time when a lot of people realize that something's happening. But something's happening underneath that for a very, very long time. But sometimes attention is not given to that. And so I'm saying to my brothers out there is that you don't have to wait until you're getting to a breaking point in order to seek help. I always use the analogy of a car. You don't have to wait until the car is falling apart to get a tune-up. You don't have to wait until it's on empty. And Latoya will love this one because as soon as she sees that red light come, she's like, we need to get the gas. Yeah, you don't wait until it's empty to actually top up the gas, the gas tank, right?
I'm glad you said that because, you know, there's a guy that visited our booth yesterday and he said, you know what, thank you for what you do because especially for men, he shared his personal experience that his mental health challenge showed up as a pseudo heart attack. And this is so popular with men that now they're having, you know, not, I wouldn't say placebo effect, but they are having anxiety attack mimics the heart attack symptoms. And so they're going into the hospitals, they're going into the doctors thinking that they're having a heart attack or some physical or health symptom, when in reality it is associated with their mental health. So mental health and physical health are tied together, and we are out of time for our segment today.
That flew by.
Right. Alric always does the announcements, but we have our booth at the Cary West grounds in the Winston Churchill Square. In Edmonton, and it is such a beautiful display of so many cultures coming together and being in one space. So we're happy to be there. We're going to be there today, and then next week, what's going on?
I think Mesh of Mothers is coming on next week.
I hope so. We're confirming with Mesh of Mothers as well. But we're going to have the segments as well with Special K and Greg.
I thought you were talking about programming for us. Of course, yeah. I mean, closing out. I guess that was my cue. And so coming up right after this, we'll have the Latin Hour with Miss Laura. Greg and Special K are back this Friday evening with the next 48. Saturday morning, the Weekend Morning Show with Greg and Danny. And of course, Latoya and I will be back next week to unpack a few more things on Let's Unpack That.
Yay.
So, while we're on the way out, we shall continue with Bob Marley. Get up, stand up for your rights.